Hi everyone, Detective Jobert here. We're going to bring you another traffic tip, this time involving the roundabout. I've had a lot of requests for this, so we're going to work this in as well as yield signs and turn signals. Alright, so with the roundabout, here's a violation that I see when I'm using it myself. I'll be coming in from this direction, and a vehicle perhaps from here seems to me to misjudge my speed, turns in front of me, and I have to hit my brakes. That's one of the interesting things about our roundabout. It's different than a lot of others, is you can come in from multiple points carrying at least 15 to 20 miles an hour. Now there's the speed limit there on Main Street is 30, and that applies to the roundabout as well. That doesn't mean you can go through it sliding sideways, but if you can navigate the roundabout within the speed limit and not screeching your tires, then you can safely travel through it. Now, with turn signals, they are required to be used in the roundabout, and I'll show you a clip from the Utah Driving Handbook later. But one thing you need to realize, and I have video that shows this, is if you were to enter the roundabout here, and let's say this was your destination to come out on 1500 South, if you were to hit your turn signal 2 seconds prior to leaving the roundabout, you might give a false signal to a driver here and to a driver here. So you would need to rely on them to wait and see that you commit to a turn before they turn in front of you. Which brings us to another part about turn signals. You can never fully trust them. So let's say this is 500 West and here are 2 stop signs. If you're waiting here to turn right and you see a vehicle coming from this direction with their turn signal on, you cannot trust that they will turn as indicated by their signal. The law requires you to signal when you're going to turn, but there is no code that penalizes you for signaling and not turning. So whether there's a signal on or not, you need to wait until this vehicle here is committed to their turn. And the same thing goes with the roundabout. So I'm not saying that you don't have to signal, because you are still required to, but just know if you see other people signaling, don't enter the roundabout until they're committed to their turn.
So if you watch this, you'll see that the gray Subaru and the vehicle behind it, if they had signaled, it would have indicated they were leaving on Main Street, not 200 West like they did. Now if you watch this white SUV enter behind the neon without stopping at the yield sign, even though there was a vehicle to its right, that was proper usage of the roundabout.
So in talking to some coworkers about other issues they've seen traffic-wise at the roundabout, this was brought up. So let's say you are traveling on 1500 South approaching the roundabout, and there's another vehicle approaching from 200 West. So if you were to enter the roundabout, this vehicle would be an immediate hazard to you. So you should be yielding the right of way to the vehicle that's going to be entering it. That would be an immediate hazard to you. Think of it like our previous example. Is if you were to open up the roundabout and lay it out, and you had 2 streets right next to each other, this vehicle here, turning right, wouldn't be expected to yield the right of way to him. Rather, this vehicle should assume that that vehicle could turn and accelerate fast enough to be a hazard to them, so they need to wait until they have committed to whatever they're going to be doing. Okay, so the last part of this involving yield signs and unregulated intersections that I want to talk about. We have a lot of these in Bountiful. There's a lot up in the eastern side, the residential neighborhoods, and I get asked frequently, even in traffic school, why we don't have stop signs there. And one thing you'll find is there's some unregulated intersections that we've had no traffic accidents at. So stop signs really aren't necessary in these scenarios because they're governed by state traffic law. So if you're going north and there's a vehicle going west and you approach the intersection at the same time, the vehicle here would have to yield the right of way to the vehicle on the right. So you would have to stop and allow them to pass through. Now, if you're approaching this intersection and this vehicle is already in the intersection, obviously you have to stop and wait for them. I had someone ask, what if 2 vehicles are coming through the intersection at 30 miles an hour and neither of them sees the other one and they collide, what would happen then? And my answer to that was they're both going to get tickets. You have to be paying attention to what's going on. The traffic law tells you how you need to treat this intersection, and if you're paying attention to how you're driving, looking for other cars, you're not going to plow into someone else that's going 30 miles an hour. Okay, so here's our intersection with two yield signs. So obviously if you're approaching where there's a yield sign, you need to slow down to a point where you can stop if a hazard comes through. That doesn't mean that you can be prepared to go through it at the speed limit, even if it's say as low as 25 where this is. It means you need to slow down given all the conditions. So let's say for example there's a big tree blocking your view of traffic over here. You need to slow down to a point where you can clear traffic beyond the tree. So it doesn't give you a set speed that you can go through it at. It just takes away the requirement from you having to actually completely come to a stop behind a line. And if you watch our stopping video, you'll see what I mean, that even people rolling through stop signs at 5 to 10 miles an hour looks fairly significant. So a yield sign just removes that obligation to come to an absolute complete stop.
Here's a couple screenshots from the Utah Driver's Handbook. It's always a good idea to take another look through that. It's available online. You can access it from your phone. There's great reminders for drivers of all different abilities.
Thanks for watching again. Join us next time for our next video. It's going to cover winter driving. We've got some dash cam videos from our plow drivers. I'm going to talk to you about how to be prepared and how to avoid accidents and how to get out of maybe the snow banks if you happen to get stuck going up the hill. Thanks. If you have any questions, comment below.